Hello and welcome everybody to this book review video. So I am joined by Sofia Eastman. Hi Sophia, welcome.
Hi.
Hello, and just want to introduce Sophia to you. She was born in Portugal, so she's actually bilingual, which is pretty awesome. She is a writer. She writes a monthly column for a very popular magazine in Portugal, and she writes about her perspective on New Zealand society. She's got 3 daughters, 2 little girls and 1 teenager, and she has put together this really cool platform called Goddesses in the World. So she's very passionate about empowering women to make their mark in the world, which is of course very appropriate and timely. And what really I wanted to interview Sophia about today is that she just wrote this really cool kids book called The Magic of Who You Are. And I saw the illustrations of this book and some of the quotes of the words at an event recently, and I just thought, wow, that's cool. Who's done that? And I didn't realise, because I already knew Sophia, and I didn't realise that Sophia had actually written the book. So when I discovered that, I immediately asked her to do a little interview with me about it, because I was quite fascinated about it. Anything spiritual for kids, I think, is something that needs to be out there. I've got 4 kids myself, and I know that I want to help them to understand as much as I can about the universe so that they're not left in the dark, but Sophia, can you tell us a little bit about what made you write a child's book? What inspired you to do that?
So there's 2 things. Obviously, with becoming a mum myself, I already had my teenager, so she's my stepdaughter. And then having had the littlies recently really created a sense of urgency in me as a woman to put my work out into the world. So, I could sit here and tell them, go do what you want to do and live your dreams. But then I noticed that I wasn't doing that myself. So the first thing that became really urgent to me was to write something that my kids could read one day so that they could understand their mum's inner world and to see me as a woman and a person in the world beyond being a mum. And then what really got the process started for this specific book was actually a tragedy in my own life. So a 16-year-old in my life took her own life last year, and it was like a kick in my stomach, and through such an awful thing, I just kept thinking, what do I wish she knew before she did that? And these were the words that were in me that I didn't write and put out into the world before she did that. And it really made me just go and do it. And it's like I had her voice in my head, like, the time is now, the time is now. And it was really that sense that I wish she knew these words. And living here in New Zealand also, I'm aware that a lot of young people seem to get to their teenage years with a sense of hopelessness, and I really wanted to give them the words before they get to that point so that they can make sense of their own world and hold on to their power and the magic inside them to then carry them through those tough years. And that's how this was born.
Wow.
So I rolled up my sleeves and did it as quickly as I could, because I felt it was the one thing I could do for her after what happened and for the people in my life. And obviously the people around me, because I really want to get this message out to as many people as possible.
That's so beautiful, and that's so meaningful, and makes me get goosebumps, when you tell that story, because it's just pertinent, So I love, the message of this book. Could you give me a brief kind of synopsis of what you're saying through this book?
Yeah, so there are probably three key messages with a few other subtle ones in the middle. But really, the first key message is that um, we all have this creative essence inside us, this magic, this force of life. I call it our divine side. And I really want kids to have a name for it because they already know it. But I think if they have a name for it, they can make sense of it for themselves. And which is, I say, it's the magic in us. And then we've got this other side, which is our human side. It's our ordinary side, our human side. And I also want them to have the words to understand that there's nothing wrong with our human side. It's part of walking this life on earth, and that they've got everything in them to walk through that side and make sense of it, and to learn to love it as well. Then the second aspect is I teach kids that their mistakes are separate from who they are. And this is something I wish I knew growing up myself. So I think at least I did when I was young, and I carried this through to adult years, I used to think doing my mistakes kind of took away from my essence, my awesomeness. I always thought I wasn't good enough for having made some mistakes, whereas I teach the kids to separate the two. So who you are, what you do, they're different things, and your mistakes don't take away that beautiful essence. They're just a learning experience, and they don't mean anything about your worth or your place in the world. And then I guess the third aspect that I wanted to incorporate was the fact that life is not all up to us. And it's, again, something that has helped me in the toughest moments of my life, when things don't seem to make sense and it seems to be all up to me. Then I always remember, oh, that's right. Life is up to us, but also we're supported by this creative energy that surrounds us all. So some people call it God, some people call it the universe. I personally call it the universe. But again, I wanted kids to get a sense of life itself, the creative life force of our lives. Like a support system that's all around us and that we're co-creating life with. Because I feel that that's the essence of hope. They will, what gives me hope is knowing that when times get tough, there's this bigger power helping me co-create my life. And also, as part of that, then there's our support network around us as well. So I allude to the importance and the interconnectedness of this life force, the people in our lives, in our own life, so that we understand that we're all connected and everything's connected. Because I think if we look at life through that lens, then we won't feel separated and alone. And that's what I want for children to go into their adult lives with. I believe if they have this understanding of the mechanics of life and the universe, then their lives will be more rich and more colorful and filled with connection and contentedness later on.
Absolutely. And just knowing that they're not alone is huge, isn't it? Because especially when you get into those really confusing feelings in teenage years, it's if you don't have that foundation, possibly it's easier to have, for things to happen that we don't want to happen, like what happened to your beautiful friend. So I really love the illustrations too, which I just wanted to flip through some of them. Really cool. And it's kind of like, I mean, what ages would you recommend for the book? Like, what age is it kind of written for?
I would say 3 to 9. You can read to them at any stage. Even always read to my kids in the womb, and I know they'll understand. But I think 3 to 9, they already know this stuff, so I think it'll just resonate with them and give them the words to then express that.
And I think
my teenager loves it, so but 3 to 9, I'd say, is an age where they'll get it. You can
because
probably
they're not kind of blocking it then, are they? Because
yeah,
I know I tried to get my teenage boys to read it, and they were kind of like, you know, but my 9-year-old just picked it up and read it. And I was like, so what did you think of it? And he says, oh, yep, I liked it. And it's like he hasn't got to that age yet where they kind of, you know, it's not cool, or, you know, well, he kind of has, but he did just absorb it, you know, whether he can really talk about it or not. But I think it's great because if you feel this stuff is true for yourself as an adult, you know, the fact that there is magic inside of us and our creative power and our connection with the universe and that kind of stuff, sometimes it's quite hard to put that into words for your kids. And I think that this book gives you a way to start that conversation, you know, and you can talk about the concepts in the book and ask them for their feedback on that, and, you know, and it just starts a conversation about it. And even if your children are too little to kind of understand some of it, you can just talk about the pictures, and you can just start gently with some of the concepts, and, you know, you can just be playful about it. And it's really cool how you've got this bit at the back too, which is for adults. And because, you know, we need to remember this message as much as our children do. And we often get into funks ourselves, don't we, where we lose touch of that just simple truth inside of us. And so I really kind of think it's a book for all ages, really, isn't it?
It is. And to be honest, that last page, I wrote it for myself as much as the people around me. I thought, what is something that us adults need to be reminded of? And even, you know, again, with what happened with my friend, it's like this kick to get things, you know, to get ourselves out of situations we don't love, to get out there and do the work we want to do. You know, I'm not saying throw everything out the door, but it's just I wanted that reminder to be there that the magic is inside us adults too. So we need to be expressing it in our lives every day with small actions. It might even be just playing the music that we love instead of the stuff that we, you know, the same old playlist because we can't bother creating a new one, or cooking something we really love, or whatever spins our wheels, taking a class that we enjoy. You know, some people sometimes think, you know, living a creative life or a joyful life is, you know, out there in the future, one day, someday, whereas you can create it any time with these little everyday decisions. And I really wanted that to be a strong message in the book. And again, we can't expect our kids to get that if we're not a demonstration of it in the world. So it's like an invitation to put this stuff into action for everyone. And I feel here in New Zealand, we've got the playground for it. So it's time we do something.
Yay. That's awesome. So I'm going to put in the description of this video all of the links that you need to be able to get this book and buy this book. Some of those include free shipping, and also I'll put in the description a link to Sofia's website, Goddesses in the World, which do you want to just tell us a little bit about that, Sofia?
Yeah, so it's an online community that is designed to celebrate women as the goddesses we are. So it's an invitation to women to see themselves from the lens of a goddess. So whatever that means to you. And I don't mean it in a woo-woo intangible way. I mean in a sacred way. So how can we view ourselves in a sacred way such that then we can show up in our lives fully and can break free from a lot of our conditioning that has us strive for perfection, have a certain kind of body, fit into some kind of mold. So it's my own exploration about how to do that. So it's still at the beginning, if you like, but this year I'll be putting a lot of my energy into it, and getting women gathered around this space and see if we can discover some cool things together.
Yeah. And I love that question that we've talked about in the past. What was it? If you were a goddess, or You know the question.
Yeah, so like if you were treating yourself or seeing yourself as a goddess, what would you do in a specific situation, even down to what you would put in your mouth and your body, right? You know, how you would exercise, how would you, what kind of work would you be doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you ask the question, then the answers are really clear.
They are. I
So
love
now,
it.
like,
I've been doing it this week.
oh, cool.
Yeah, no, it makes you feel really good. Well, it just connects you to that truth, doesn't it? And just putting it in that context, just, I don't know, just works for me somehow.
Yeah, in the next coming weeks, I'm going to release. I don't know the exact format yet, but I started writing it, so it'll be some sort of workbook or something with a simple exercise that I'll be publishing on the site that anyone will be able to do. And yeah, I'm curious to see what people can get out of that.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, so The Magic of Who You Are by Sophia Eastman. Buy the book for your kids, your grandkids, your future kids, or for yourself. So all the links are in the description, and thank you for watching. See you later.